All right. I am Chief Strategy Officer at M0. As it was said, I spent 8 years at Circle before working at M0, leading the build out of USDC, leading all the stablecoin product teams for Circle. So I've been in this sector of our industry for a good little while, and I will try to convince you guys that we are on to the next phase of what have been deemed the stablecoin wars. You know, there has been fierce competition in the sector for the last 10 years, and I'm going to try to make an argument for why we're going to enter a new phase of the wars that I'm calling the rise of the networks. Big Star Wars nerds, obviously, there we are. All right, so first let's start with a little journey down history lane. I have been in this sector, as I said, for close to a decade now. Some of these things are vanilla for me, but I wanted to walk you guys through a little bit of the history of stablecoin so that you realize why I'm making this statement that I think we're going to go through another phase of the war and what does it mean going forward. The early stablecoin wars were, you know, some of the products that you guys certainly know and use today, and some that you might have forgotten. But obviously, part of the generation of that phase of the sector, Tether's USDT, Circle's USDC, DAI, which fell a little bit behind, kind of changed it in terms of the nature of the product. There were other products that were competing back in the day, or at least attempting to compete. USDP from Paxos. Does anyone remember GUSD from Gemini? It was a big deal back in the day. These were, as I like to call them, branded, general purpose, monolithic, and vertically integrated products. Important to call them products. They were designed and thought of as products. I know because I thought of one of those. So how did they compete and continue to compete typically to date? They compete on brand, ability to deliver liquidity to all the use cases that incorporate them, distribution, and then kind of boring things that honestly nobody has been talking about too much if you guys think about it, but it used to be a big deal, right? Reserve mechanism, peg mechanism. Those things have been fixed, have been addressed. There's no more innovation in that space. Despite what marketing materials might say, there's actually very thin technology on these products. Super, super thin. I'm an engineer by training. USDT is like less than 3,000 lines of code. Very little programmability. Again, we call these programmable dollars sometimes. Well, there's only one entity in the world that can program each one of these, and it's the company that issues them. So it is programmable, but we can do better than that level of programmability. Then what happened, again, in terms of history lane, then what happened after that was this phase of stablecoins as a service, and Paxos was certainly the company that kind of mostly pioneered that phase of the sector. There were other companies back then that went bust, actually, but Prime Trust used to be one of those. A lot of engineers engaged in building their own stablecoins back in the time, or at least attempting to. Most of those didn't go much further. But these were like very, very simplistic approaches to what we think the market was telling the customers in this market was telling the service providers of the sector. This emerging approach of stablecoin as a service, though, was basically a copy and paste of the same style of product that had been built. What if we copy and paste it and just give it another name and sell it as a service to another customer, and then just keep doing that again and again. Sort of inefficient. It had lots of problems. The Binance Dollar BUSD issued by Paxos was the most successful one out of those. Actually, extremely successful as far as size goes, but unfortunately, it went down to zero. As you can see on the picture, it was shut down for specific reasons I'm not going to get into. The PayPal dollar is still out there. It's very large. It's probably the most successful product out of this era of stablecoin as a service still. But actually, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this phrase, like for folks like me who have a product background, you always hear of this phrase, are you building what the customer is asking, but is the customer asking for a faster horse? Because good product people listen to the customer and then say no. Or in the sense that, they listen to the customer and they try to extract the needs from what the customer is asking, not just blindly building what the customer is asking, because if the customer was asking for a faster horse, this is the original story that, the car would never have been invented. Customers don't know what's possible. They might be giving you a direction for what they want, but you as a technology, as a builder, you need to provide for them like an answer in terms of what's possible. My belief is that stablecoins as a service, that second era, was building a faster horse. Like customers were asking for that. Can I have my own stablecoin, please? That's not really what they need. What they need is a platform. And I do this thing, you know, the clapping. I don't know if this is a good emoji, but like everybody stop what you're doing and think about this. Stablecoins are platforms. They're not products. Some of them are products, but this is in the past. We're now studying history here. Stablecoins are a platform going forward, and I'll prove to you guys why. You might know some of these screenshots, right? What are these guesses? This is like the Cash App, Venmo, PayPal. There are obviously similarities between these fintech products, right? They all have dollar balances, like ways for you to transact in dollar-denominated ways. You know, different support for like funds coming in, funds coming out for you to transact within a given ecosystem. Traditionally, the way that you would build any one of these products was you would find a banking partner, you would find payments processing partners, you would figure out a way to do ledgering to, you know, assign balances to accounts and make sure that you didn't lose track of who owned what at what point in time. You would then facilitate this in the sense of US dollar balance functionality for your users, facilitate transfers, et cetera, et cetera. For a while now, I think what actually happened is builders who are exposed to crypto technology, they wanted to build, let me just go back, they wanted to build these kinds of experiences, right? And we have been, actually it's been taking too long for crypto to get to the point where the user experiences are as good as what we had in fintech, but certainly some builders have been looking for that. Perhaps they have been looking for it and asking for a faster horse, but really that's what they wanted. And if you go back again in history and look at, you know, what Binance did with the Binance Dollar, this is a screenshot. It's not very popular, but it's from the FTX app, the FTX retail app back in the day. I'll say something controversial. It was the best user experience out in the market at that point. For a little reason, you see the little, I don't know if you can see, there's a dollar balance there. That dollar balance was purely stablecoins. FTX did not have a banking partner. They did not hold dollars for their end users. They held stablecoins. You would deposit USDC, they would credit this balance. You would deposit USDT, they would credit this balance. And then you could withdraw in any one of those formats as well. What we mean by that is they were using stablecoins as a platform. They were building user experiences and good product experiences at that on top of stablecoins. Again, maybe they were interested in building their own stablecoin, just as Binance was interested in building their own stablecoin. And maybe they have articulated this to the sector. What they actually wanted was to have access to stablecoins as a platform. So what does this mean when you actually think of building and allowing you know, good product developers to build on top of stablecoins as a platform? You realize that the existing products from the first era of the sector that I mentioned in the beginning, they were obviously not designed for this. They were designed to be a dollar-denominated token that you could hold on a wallet and transact. They were not designed to be platforms. And you know, there are two. I joke with my team that there are two ways to build a platform. One is to design and build it. The other way is to build a product that fails and then pivot to become a platform. There's a lot of those out in the market, but usually they don't work. Like you don't build an Amazon Web Services of the world by not designing it to be a platform, right? So my opinion is that there's going to be a lot of attempts to build products on top of USDC, on top of USDT, and so on and so forth. They will invariably fail because you know, that's not the best platform for you to build. They do have, you know, advantages. They offer you a lot of liquidity, a lot of interoperability, because by the way, if it's the same asset, it's by definition interoperable. But there's no real programmability, right? You cannot extend in the sense that you extend platforms and build your own features based on that. You cannot extend USDC, you cannot extend USDT. It's just not doable. I mean, you can, but you don't actually own a lot of that implementation. And most importantly, this is again something that people get confused. You don't get access to the yield. Everybody talks about the yield. Oh, but I would like the yield for the deposit base that I have of those assets. Well, again, this is talking about a faster horse. What builders of products actually want is monetization. They want, if they acquire 1,000 customers and if they get $100,000 of deposits from those 1,000 customers, they should be allowed to monetize their business. And if they're holding USDC or USDT or anything else that belongs to somebody else, they can't monetize. Some other entity is monetizing the business for them. Again, it can only work for so long until everybody kind of, pick their arms and decide to fight a war. So again, the claim that I have is that stablecoins as a service was the faster horse. And I think now the industry is recognizing what we actually need and what we actually should work towards, which is this idea of custom stablecoins as platforms for building fintechs. So this is what I call the rise of these called stablecoin networks. So what are these stablecoin networks? These are models that are beginning to emerge now. First of all, they have been designed, or at least they have been a lot more considered as a platform, and not as a product, which gives them like certain features that we wouldn't have seen before. A lot of people are getting confused. I see this daily on Twitter, on LinkedIn, right? Like, oh my God, there's 5 more stablecoins and people are so stupid. I don't know about that. Maybe you should consider your opinion a little bit. I don't think people are that stupid. Maybe they're exploring something that actually has a lot of value. The use of custom stablecoin issuance, it's actually a mechanism to instantiate this functionality and then get access to monetization. So stablecoins are actually 2 things if you think about it, right? They are a really brilliant kind of innovation. They have the value representation, so they represent, the dollar, which is a really useful thing, and they have behavior. As I said before, the way that these products have been constructed in the past, it was like, as is usually the case with software, right? You build a big monolith first and everything is mixed and you don't have a way to kind of utilize bits of it. But everybody's interested in the value part of stablecoins. Everybody wants to be able to represent that inside their product. Not everybody's interested in the particular behaviors of these stablecoins as they are today. Is everybody interested in the blacklisting function as it works of Tether today? Some people are, some people might not be. Does everybody want to contain the transfers in the way that Circle wants transfers of USDC to be contained? Maybe not. Maybe I want to build a closed loop system. Maybe I actually have different compliance requirements. But you cannot customize any one of these behaviors. This is just pardon my French, this is just bullshit. Like, we can do better than that. We can break down this technology and rebuild it again in the sense that we can offer the value component to builders and offer the ability for them to customize behavior. In the same way that they customize behavior for any other platform of software that they use. This is looking like custom stablecoin issuance today, but it will quickly flip into this clear idea that these are actually platforms being used. Some of the examples of what I'm calling these networks are obviously what we do at M0. I think Bridge, which was acquired by Stripe, has a play in this space. Athena is entering this space, Anchorage, and a few smaller ones. So what does this mean in practice? This means that now you have an entity providing this infrastructure, and part of that infrastructure that is provisioned is the issuance of these assets. And then you have multiple assets, multiple of these stablecoin products within a particular ecosystem, and they are bespoke to a particular use case, right? So in the case of M0, examples are, we have built the MetaMask dollar for MetaMask. We have built, USDAI for that team, and so on and so forth. Each one of these things is a different instantiation of the platform. It has very particular behaviors. It allows these developers to monetize their use case. And the most important thing is they become interoperable within that ecosystem. Because that's really important. I wouldn't advocate for 1,000 stablecoins to exist if they were all completely segregated and fragmenting liquidity. But if they become interoperable within a particular ecosystem, then that's very interesting because these ecosystems are actually separated out. They're not the same company building them. And yet you have the ability to move funds from one ecosystem to the other without dropping anything behind. So the reality that we are right now is looking like something like this, right? I think the problem, though, and this is why I think we're going to enter some sort of a new era of stablecoin wars associated with these networks, is that while you might look at each one of these networks independently like that, as they grow, and they're growing very fast, if you think about the number of products that each one of these 4 networks, just as the examples that I've said, they already issued like close to 20 use cases. What will actually happen in practice is more like this, right? So these networks, these use cases will sort of overlap. I want to have like maybe an exchange use case that overlaps with another wallet use case that is part of the same family, but these 2 stablecoins are issued by different networks. That's obviously going to be a problem because interoperability is going to be some of the main turf where this next phase of wars are going to be fought on. But I think what will happen, and then I'll close, my guess for the near future is that this is actually what builders need. We are entering the phase now of actually transforming stablecoins, or at least the core of that technology, into a platform that builders need to be able to build this better fintech, just things that end users are going to use, and they don't even know that they're touching stablecoin infrastructure in the back end. But as I said, part of the turf is going to be interoperability. So trading is not good interop. I think this is just something that we know as an industry, and we should not accept it. Imagine if actual dollars on banks were traded one for the other for them to be able to interoperate. That would be horrible. We have central banks, we have clearing houses, we have tech for interoperability. We should have tech for digital dollar interoperability as well. And I think my other take is that people will realize the difference between open and closed platform models, right? As a builder, when you build on top of a platform, depending on what it gives your business, it becomes extremely strategic for your business. And you might not want to build on Microsoft. You might prefer Amazon for different reasons, right? There are closed platforms, that force you to kind of be in their vertical silo. And there are open platforms that allow like different parts of the stack to be plugged in by many service providers. This is particularly the model that we believe in at M0. We think that's going to be another super, super important element for people to consider when picking the substrate for them to build on. And with that said, I thank you guys for the time.